friends, welcome back to Stappystamper. My name is Terry Stapp and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator located in Central Texas. Today we're going to be talking about November 2025's paper pumpkin kit called Wrapped in Cheer. These are the directions, and you can see here that we are going to be making gift boxes today. All right. These are the supplies that come with this month's kit. Let me get it all in focus here. All right, you have a stamp set. It has a wreath, a little gift for you stamp, sending a little Christmas cheer from our home to yours, a to from with love, happy holidays, and Merry Christmas. We have a stamping spot in Mossy Meadow. We have some linen thread. This little baggie holds our glue dots and our mini dimensionals, as well as some red adhesive dots or gems. We have our gift card boxes. There are 8 of them. They come pre-scored and ready for you to fold and put together. The one side is kind of a shiny green, mossy meadow, and then the other side is like a plaid type in, let's see what color it says, basic beige. I was going to say crumb cake, but I didn't think that was quite right. It is in basic beige. In addition to those materials, we have some tag punches to put some tags together for your boxes. We have some bow cutouts. And then we have some embellishments. We have the wreath and then the greenery. So this card, nope, not this card. This video is going to be in 3 parts. In part 1, I'm going to show you the projects that are made up. I'll make 2 boxes. I'll make one in the green and one in the basic beige kind of plaid side. So I'll make that up following the directions according to what's in the box. In the second part, I will make some other projects, probably some cards, using the materials that come in the box, in addition to some extra supplies such as cardstock or other perhaps designer series paper or something like that. And then in part 3, we will really step it up, and I will probably throw in some die cuts, some embossing. There's no telling what we're going to end up with, but they're going to be a little bit fancier if you have that type of equipment to use. So stay tuned for the 3 parts. I'll be back with part 1. All right, here we are at part 1. I have put the 2 boxes together according to the directions that came in the paper pumpkin kit. You can see here, it tells you which pieces to use to put each of the boxes together. The only adjustment I did make, if you look at the picture, all of the boxes are on the basic beige side. I wanted to change it up just a little bit, so I made 1 box with the basic beige. I used the green banner with the cherry cobbler tag, and then on the other box, I folded it in the opposite direction, so the green side was facing out and the basic beige part is on the inside. And with that one, I put the red banner, the cherry cobbler banner with the green tag and the Merry Christmas on that one. So that's the only change that I made in the directions, just so that you could see that you can do both. You can fold them both ways. They work perfectly fine. So you decide which way you like to have your gift box facing. Do you want it inside or outside? They both work. All right, part 2 is coming up, and I'm going to play around with these materials and see what I can make that is not a gift card box. Be right back. All right, my friends, welcome to round 2. So just as a refresher, in part 1, we made the boxes according to the instructions on the kit. In part 2, we're going to use the materials from the kit, add some cardstock and change things up just a little bit, but really pretty much staying true to the design of the kit. But I did decide to turn it into a card. A lot of times people get kits that have treat boxes or gift card boxes, and then they're a little bit disappointed because they don't need 8 boxes, they need cards instead. So I wanted to show you in part 2 and in part 3 how we can take the materials from the kit and let's turn them into a really cool card. So this is the box from part 1. Here's the card from part 2 that we're going to make. So it's a little flip card, opens like that. You could decorate up the inside if you wanted to. But I thought this was a really great way to use the materials to make an awesome looking card. So this is what you're going to need to put this card together. I have the materials here. I chose cherry cobbler as my base. I have a piece that is 8 by 4 1/4. It's scored at 5 1/2. I also have another piece of cherry cobbler that is 4 1/4 by 3. So this is the leftover piece. If you start with a 4 1/4 by 11, that's half the piece of cardstock. You cut it long ways. Trim off 3 inches at the end. So if I put this together, you can see that came from that long piece. Trim off 3 inches, and then that's the piece that's left over. That way you don't have any waste, and I love that part. Okay, I went with Mossy Meadow for my matte color. So I have a piece of Mossy Meadow that is 4 1/8 by 2 7/8. A piece of Mossy Meadow that is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. A piece of Mossy Meadow that is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. Then I went with Basic White, 5 1/4 by 4, 3 1/8 by 4 3/8. Then I have a piece of Designer Series paper. I just went into my stash of old scraps and tried to find one little piece that had some Mossy Meadow, some cherry cobbler that would kind of tie in with the vibe of the card. And I found this piece from years and years ago. So I'm going to use it, and I cut it at 4 by 2 3/4. Then I took my box. I took one of the boxes like this, and I cut off, I put it up in my trimmer, and I sliced on this side of the score line, on this side of the score line, this side of the score line, this side of the score line. And then I used this piece here. I cut this piece, and I cut this piece. So One of the pieces I'm using the green side, and one of the pieces I'm using that basic beige kind of plaid looking side. The measurements for those pieces are 2.5 by 3 3/4, and then I banner cut the end. And then the green one measures 2 1/4 by 3 1/2, and I banner cut the end. And then all I did here is I put the tag together according to the kit directions. So I have my green piece, my red piece. I tied it with the twine, put my bow on there, put my like mistletoe type leaves, my red dots. The only thing that's a little bit different is that I did add a Merry Christmas on here, and that's not part of the directions. It is for the wreath, but not for the mistletoe. But there's plenty to add that sentiment on here. Plenty of these little tags here. So I went ahead and added that to the end. All right, let's put our card together. I'm going to come down just a little bit. And let's start with the inside of our card. So go ahead and pull your piece of Mossy Meadow. That is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. Your basic white, that's 5 1/4 by 4. Your Mossy Meadow, that is 3 1/4 by 4 1/2. And your basic white, that is 3 1/8 by 4 3/8. We're going to go ahead and start, if I can find my adhesive. We're going to go ahead and start. We're going to put these two pieces together and these two pieces together. Okay, here we go. I'm going to put adhesive on the back right here. Get that lined up. And then I'm going to add adhesive to the back of the larger piece of basic white. And put that with my Mossy Meadow. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring in some liquid glue. I'm going to use my green glue. And I want to put these two pieces together. So I want this to have an equal border all the way around each side. That's why I'm going to use my liquid glue, because if I don't get it placed perfectly the first time, I can have a little bit of wiggle room and make sure that it looks perfect before it dries. Okay, that looks great to me. This is the inside of our card. If you wanted to put some sort of sentiment or some sort of decoration, I'd go ahead and do that before I glued it down. I'm not going to do that on mine. I think the front of the card is plenty interesting, and then I'm going to leave it like this so that I can write my Christmas message to the recipient here. All right, this is going to go on the inside of our card. So I'm going to put adhesive on the back of this. And then pull your card base. That is the piece of cherry cobbler that is 8 by 4 1/4 that's scored at 5 1/2. Okay. Now it's going to go like this. I'm right-handed, so I'm going to turn it sideways. And I'm going to do this so that I can make sure that I have a good border. All right, that looks great to me. Now we're going to go ahead and decorate the top of our card right here. I needed to cut another piece, and then that changed the measurement of the designer series paper. So I apologize for that. We are going to need a piece of Mossy Meadow, an additional piece of Mossy Meadow that is 4 1/8 by 2 3/8. And then we want our piece of designer series paper. We had it at 4 by 2 3/4, but that's not it. It's 4 by 2 1/4. Okay, so if you are following along with me as I'm putting the card together, I want you to go ahead and cut another piece of matte color. That is, what did I tell you? 4 1/8 by 2 3/8. And then take the piece of designer series paper that you cut and cut off, leave it at 4, but then cut off to where it's 2 1/4, not 2 3/4. Okay. All right, here we go. Now we're going to put the top together. So we're going to take the smaller piece of Mossy Meadow and then our designer series paper, and we're going to put those two together and then mat all of that on top of our card, on top of that piece of cherry cobbler. Okay, here we go. Goes together like this. And then this is going to go right there. All right, now we have that part put together. Go ahead and bring out your piece of Mossy Meadow. We still want the piece that is 4 1/8 by 2 7/8. We just didn't want it for the top of the card. So go ahead and pull that piece and the piece of that leftover section. It measures 4 1/4 by 3. Go ahead and pull that also. We're going to put those two together just like this. And then we're going to start layering on those pieces of the box that we cut apart. So you're going to want the 2 pieces of banner cut that you banner cut. So these are the boxes, okay? One is 2 1/2 by 3 3/4. One is 2 1/4 by 3 1/2. Both of the ends have been banner cut. We're going to layer those two together, just like that. And you can change if you want them like that. That's fine too. I just, since I'm using the Mossy Meadow, I wanted to go ahead and give that a little color break in there. So I chose to flip it over. And then I think it'll be easier to do this. So we're going to layer this here on top of that Mossy Meadow. And then I'm going to bring out that liquid glue again. And then we're going to put this at the top here. So what I'm going to look for is I don't want it way over here where there's nothing there. I'm going to try to center this in between these 2 lines right here. I don't necessarily need it centered like that. I do want it centered like this with this piece at the top and this piece at the bottom. I don't want it up at the top. You could try it like that if that's the way you want it, closer to the top. That would be fine too. I'm going to try it down here this time a little bit lower. So if I pull out the card that I made as my test card, I did have it a little bit higher, and I have a larger piece at the bottom. That's fine. It looks great. But this time I want to have a similar measurement on the two sides and the bottom, which is going to leave the same amount at the top as at the bottom. So I'm going to get it the way I want it. I'm going to use my handy dandy tool, measuring tool, to reach up underneath here. I'm doing this under here, so I'm going to stop when my fingers get to that edge, and then I know I don't want to put glue past my fingers. Okay, so spread on a little bit of glue. I'm going to pop this back down here and get that all lined up. Nice and straight. Looks good to me. All right, the last thing we have is our tag. We built our tag. I'm going to put, not glue dots, I'm going to put dimensionals on the back of this, just like the tag directions. I'm using some larger dimensionals. I have one more right here. Yay. Okay, I'm going to pull off the backings for those. And I'm going to pop this right in the center of my stack of tags. I'm trying to get that bow out of the way. All right, give it a press. Okay, that looks great. That is our card put together for, pull it back up now, for part 2. So I took the materials to make the box and transformed those materials to make a really lovely Christmas card. I didn't have to get all fancy and stuff with my die cut machine or anything. I just used a little bit of cardstock, a piece of scrap designer series paper, and turned those materials into a fabulous card. So that's part 2. We're going to do part 3. Same thing. I'm going to create another card. This one is going to have a little bit more materials. I'm going to use my die cut machine, some dies, a punch maybe, and extra paper and stuff like that. So it'll be a little bit more intense, but I hope you like the cards for part 2, and stay tuned for part 3. Alrighty, here we are at part 3. So just to review, we had part 1, the box that was made according to the instructions in the paper pumpkin kit. For part 2, we made a card just using some simple materials. I added some extra cardstock, a little bit of scrap designer series paper, and cut apart the box to add to the card, and kind of stayed with the directions as far as the tag is concerned, but then incorporated that tag into making a card instead of adding it to a box. So in part 3, this is the one where I wanted to, I don't know, as Emerald says, kick it up a notch, I guess. It's a little bit more intense as far as what we're doing. I did tie in some, a punch and my die machine. I went and grabbed some extra ribbon and made this 3-pocket card. So in the pockets, we have the tag. So I went ahead and made a tag according to the directions. And then on the back, it's actually a tag that could be used. So your recipient could use this on one of their Christmas presents. That's in one of the pockets. In the next pocket is a little mini card that you can write your Christmas message on. And then on the third one is another little piece, Happy Holidays from our home to yours. So those are all the 3 pieces. You can see that there are 3 pockets. And then each one of these just goes back inside the pocket. Put this one in the back pocket. There we go. Okay, that's our 3-pocket card, and let's talk about the materials that you're going to need to make this card. So first thing, I started with the cherry cobbler. It is 5.5 by 4 1/4. It's a single piece. Okay. I have Mossy Meadow that is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I have the designer series paper, and we will actually put the pocket card together so that you can see how to construct this part of the card. But it's a piece of designer series paper that is cut at 8 by 10 1/2. Along the 8-inch side, it's scored at 4 inches. And along the 10 1/2-inch side, it's scored at 5 1/4. I went ahead and assembled the tag made to the directions. I just used, instead of using the wreath, I went ahead and used the mistletoe, holly type things. Once again, I did add Merry Christmas to the bottom, and I stamped the back so it could be used actually as a tag. I also went ahead and put together the where I would write the Christmas message. So I have part of the box, so the Mossy Meadow part of the box right here. Okay, I used this, cut this to 3 3/4 by 2 1/2. Then I cut a piece of basic white at 3 5/8 by 2 3/8. I stamped and decorated and left room for the message. So I just used the stamp that went with the paper pumpkin kit, stamped Merry Christmas at the top, added a little coordinating cardstock in Mossy Meadow and designer series paper, and then I have room to write my message. I also went ahead and made the Happy Holidays from our home to yours, the little card that goes in the front pocket. To make this card, I used the other side, the basic beige side. So the mat for this is Mossy Meadow cardstock, not the box, but just Mossy Meadow cardstock, 4 by 2 5/8. The basic beige part, the box, is 3 7/8 by 2 1/2. And then I stamped and decorated that piece as well. This stamp is the wreath that comes in the kit. Happy Holidays from our home to yours. These are 2 separate stamps that come in the kit. And then once again, I decorated the bottom with the Mossy Meadow and the coordinating designer series paper. And then finally, I have my sentiment for the card front. I used the Christmas greetings, used my stitched rectangles to cut that out, then cut a matte piece out of Mossy Meadow. I used my punch to punch out 3 little mistletoe looking things. added some of the dots that came in the kit, and then I added dimensionals to the back. I didn't want to add it to the top corner here because this is going to be hanging over the card and I didn't want to glue it shut. Okay. All right. So everything is put together here, but let's talk about your piece of designer series paper. I'll bring you down a little bit. Okay, so this piece of designer series paper, it's just a scrap, is cut at 8 by 10.5, just like this. Along the 8-inch side, I scored it 4. Along the 10.5-inch side, I scored it 5 1/4. Now you're going to have them scored. I used my bone folder to really burnish the edges both ways. I folded it back ways. I folded it in half this way, and I folded it back this way. So once you have it really burnished, the first thing you're going to do is, let me see how I have it. There we go. You're going to fold it in half. So these corners on yours aren't going to be folded yet. Okay, so you're just going to have 4 quadrants that look like this. You're going to take your piece with the 8-inch side across the top, and you're going to fold it over. And then you're going to take the bottom piece and you're going to fold it up. So that's going to give you a card that is 5 1/4 by 4. Now, you're going to, without it being glued yet, you're going to take your corners and you're going to fold this corner down. I just took it and I folded it down and I left a border here. You're going to take your next corner and fold that one down. Leave a border around the side and the bottom. And then you're going to take your corner here and fold that down and leave a border along the side and the bottom. This one's going to stay. This is that last corner. And this part back here is going to get glued to your Mossy Meadow mat. Okay. Now, I don't want these pieces. I left them, or I folded them so I would know where I wanted the fold to be, but I actually want to fold them under. Okay, so it's going to look like that. This is what your final card is going to look like that you're going to mat on your cherry cobbler and your Mossy Meadow. Okay, but we need to do some gluing first. So I'm actually going to unwrap my card and I'm going to start putting some tear and tape on the corners. So here's a corner. I know it's folded back this way. So I want to put tear and tape here. Just like this. Okay, this one's folded. I already have the measurement because I pre-folded it. So I'm going to put some tear and tape here. Okay, now I have a piece here, but it's folded the other way. So I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to put some tear and tape here. All right, I'm going to set my tear and tape aside because I'm going to need it again, but I'm going to go ahead and make sure that is secure and fold these pieces back. So I'm going to take off the backing here and I already have it burnished. I'm just going to fold that piece back and tape it down. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to do the same here. And the same here. And go ahead and tear off the backs. Fold the corner down. And then I want to tear the back off here. And fold the corner down. Okay. Now, let's see how it's going to go back. There we go. So then we're folding it back, but it's loose, loosey-goosey, right? So I need to have some tear and tape here. So that gets glued together. And then I don't want the sides to be open. So I need some tear and tape here, some tear and tape here, and some tear and tape here. So let's open this up. Okay, I want tear and tape right here. So I'm gonna do that, put my finger right there. And I know I want tear and tape right there. Okay, where else do I want tear and tape? I have my piece right there. I need some tear and tape at the next one. So I'm going to hold my finger right there. And I want some tear and tape right here. Okay, where else do I need it? Okay, let's see. I have tear and tape there. Oh, I need some tear and tape right here. So I'm going to hold my finger and I need tear and tape right here. Now, I suppose you could use a different adhesive. I like tear and tape because it is strong and the pockets need to be held together well. And my other choice would probably be like a liquid glue. You could probably use Stamp and Seal, but I think you would have a hard time getting it glue without sticking to something else. And the liquid glue, for me, I always tend to put too much and then it squishes out and then it gets everywhere and on my hands and stuff like that, and it's just not great. So the other place I want some tear and tape, I want it this part attached to that part. So I'm going to put my finger right here and I'll run some tear and tape down this side as well. Okay, let's burnish these. Make sure they're stuck down really well. And I'm going to start peeling off the backings and putting them together. Take these two. And when I stick it down, I want to make sure it's lined up well. Okay, so this piece is together. And then this middle piece is together, but I still have these two. I'm just going to reach inside here with my Take Your Pick tool. Take off the back, glue it down. Reach inside here with my Take Your Pick tool. Take off the back, glue it down. Now I have my pocket card that I can put my stuff inside. I'm going to go ahead and leave the top part open. I don't really need to glue that down. And leaving this part open does help with being able to open it up a little bit wider to put your stuff into. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and mount this piece. I'm going to put adhesive on the back. And take my piece of Mossy Meadow that is 5 3/8 by 4 1/8. I want this to go together. And then I want my Mossy Meadow to be matted on the 5.5 by 4.25 piece of cherry cobbler. Okay, now I already have my tags and stuff made. I went over the pieces with you, how I cut up the box and what stamps I used. So I'm going to go ahead and stick the pieces in there. Here's the piece where I would write my message for me. That's going to go in the middle pocket. You can put it in whichever pocket you want to. I'm going to see if it'll stick up a little bit like that. And then here is that gift tag that was made according to the directions in the paper pumpkin kit. I'm going to stick it in this final pocket right back here. I want the little bows to be visible. Line that up. Beautiful. Last thing I need to do is take off the back of these dimensionals and pop my front sentiment onto the front of my card. Now what I'm looking for here is this piece, because I don't want to glue it down too far and then this be hanging over. I want this to be within the boundaries of the card. So that's kind of what I'm looking at here. I think that's good. And that's good. All right, guys. That is the card that is created from the gift box materials for part 3. So let's bring in the other cards. This is the part 3. Here is part 2. And then we have our 2 boxes that were made according to the directions on the kit instructions. Okay, I still have materials left. I have 2 of each. I could make 2 more boxes. I could make 2 more of any of these cards that I choose. 1 of these, 1 of these, 2 of these, 2 of these, however. But I have enough materials left to make 2 more things. And let me know what you think. Okay, do you think you're going to make the boxes? Do you think you're going to mix it up, cut up the boxes? Would you make this card for part 2? Or what do you think about the pocket card for part 3? Let me know in the comments. I hope you enjoyed the video. I do have Wednesday videos every Wednesday with different materials and different products. And then in January, I'm going to be having Stamp Along Sundays as well as the Wednesday. So keep in touch, and I'll see you next month for Paper Pumpkin. Until then, happy stamping.